Hi, welcome to Warrior Commission Now, where we talk about practical ways to live your commission in the Lord. I'm Christine Caston.
And I'm Sharon Rudolph.
And Sharon and I are happy to welcome you to this conversation. And I use the word happy, not in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, well, maybe. But really, one of the things that we find is that we have a culture that is, kind of the don't worry, be happy, the fake it till you make it. If you pretend like you're happy, you will be kind of thing. And what we really wanted to talk about is happy is not as supposed to. And so Sharon, without any further, introduction, I guess, let's go ahead and let's just get into this. So when we say happy is not as supposed to, what's kind of on your heart about that? And what's bubbling up in your spirit regarding happiness?
Well, believe the Lord. Jesus came and lived and died and takes us to a place of freedom. And in that place of freedom, we get to have real happiness, not fake happiness. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people, in their efforts to have something of happiness, they settle for what it's not. Mm-hmm. Instead of being willing to take a risk and explore what it could be. Yeah. And there is huge truth in so much of our emotions are a choice. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you choose to always be a negative Nelly, happiness could be a hard thing. So some days it is important to choose, but there are times when we need to own the emotion we're in. Mm-hmm. And we need to be willing to explore what that even is. Mm-hmm.
And an emotion tends to be almost like a symptom or an outcome of where you are.
Yes.
In your process or in your journey. So anyway, go right ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. That's a huge point, because our journey and story determines how we define emotions. Mm-hmm. And I love how in our TWC community, we've been exploring joy. Mm-hmm. And we can have, as human people, we're designed to have joy no matter what our emotion is. Mm-hmm. Right? You can be sad and still be in joy, mm-hmm. but happy is different.
Yeah.
And actually, personally, I'm on a journey right now to redefine happy, mm-hmm. because of all the old definitions of happy that weren't really happy. Mm-hmm. They weren't really happy. And I know in my knower that Jesus has happiness for us. Mm-hmm. And I see it as a huge exploration. And a piece of that is, and this comes from years of inner healing ministry, once you know where you are and the emotion that you're in, we don't have to fix it all by ourselves.
Right.
We can hand it to Jesus. Mm-hmm. I love the concept that Jesus is with us. He is the healer. And whatever that emotion is, it is an easy step to say, here, Jesus, I don't really want to be sad anymore. Mm-hmm. Here, Jesus, I don't want to be anxious anymore. Mm-hmm. What do you have for me? Mm-hmm. What do you have for me?
Right.
And give yourself permission to redefine the words, because we can feel anxious, but what if we're not? Mm-hmm. And we can pretend to be happy, but what if we're not? And it's amazing how you'll spend any time at all with little kids under the age of 10, and they have radar. They'll know. They'll know. You can be acting all the happy you want, and they'll come up and go, "Why are you sad, Grandma?" Right?
Exactly. Yeah, they see it.
They'll know. So, yeah, so I'm sort of on my own journey with the word happy. What have you found in your walk with the emotion of happy?
Yeah, happy to me, the Lord described it for me one time, actually. He talked about happiness as like a small bubbling brook that's on the surface of the earth. And joy is like a deep aquifer that's way below the depths, and it always has water, but the brook may dry up. The happy brook may dry up in times of drought, and it may not have as much water in it, or it may just be a small stream, or it may flow with greater water, if you will. There may be a greater flow of it. And so what he really took me into was that it's not about seeking happiness or pretending you're happy, or even like happiness isn't the goal. It's really not, right? So it's about joy to me, and the joy will be, like you said, it's an ongoing, it's a gift of the Spirit. Joy is a gift of the Spirit, but it may be joy in the understanding that I'm going through, say, grief, and there's a joy of walking through the grief process, because there's something about entering into that kind of a suffering, if you will, that helps me connect to God's heart, that helps me be a compassionate person, that helps me connect with people who are in grief. Everyone's always like, well, I don't know what to say, so-and-so's in grief, I don't know what to say. Well, you don't know what to say because you probably haven't really embraced the experience of going through grief and laying something down. And part of the thing that we've also discovered is that there's always a lot of tension, internal tension and or external tension, when we're about to break through into a new place of maturity with God, a new place of connection with him, a new place of understanding. So like Sharon, you're talking about, you have this tension about what is happy, there's this tension there. Well, there's a breakthrough for you on the other side of it. Yes. So I think that, part of our journey is to really embrace where we are and to be real with where we are in those emotions, and to engage with them. Because when you push something down, as an example with grief, you push grief down and you don't really engage with that process, then the healing doesn't happen. Right. If your anxiety is high, if there's something going on that's a high anxiety in your life, well, what really is the cause of that? Is it because the boss is a mean-spirited person? Is it that? Is it because the company's having a lot of challenges in its day-to-day? Or is it because there's something in you that doesn't trust God, that doesn't take you into a place? I mean, it could be a lot of different scenarios, right? And each of those has its own place of learning and joy in the journey. So to me, happiness is, I think I would much rather be told I'm a joyful person than a happy person.
Well, and I'm going to bring in a little piece of the science of emotion, right? There, and different people who study emotion list a different, but there's a big six. There are six main emotions, and they're in your brain, and you don't really control them, and you just react. And fear is one of those. Disgust is one of those. That stinky baby diapers will bring up. So there are emotions that you have that just come up, and it's not like you necessarily picked them, but they're hardwired. And then there are emotions that we learn, and happy is actually one of those emotions that we learn more, as opposed to joy is something that we know. And we know when a person is safe. We know when a person's glad to be with us. We know in our knower. And joy comes from that place. Whereas happy, it depends on which movie. When you watch a movie, and there'll be things that I laugh at that nobody else laughs at, right? And I've been exploring with God, what are the things that make me laugh? And it's not that I need to laugh at what my husband laughs at, or what my kids laugh at, or what everyone else in the theater laughs at, right? This is the thing that I see as funny, and that's okay, right? Happy is much more a learned thing. And so if you're not happy, you can learn to be happy. But if you're happy all the time and you don't know how to connect with any of these other emotions, well, maybe that's a place where you have to explore what's possible here. Because there's, in the kingdom of God, God created all the emotions, and there's an aspect of wholeness he wants us to have.
Mhm.
And there is such a blessing when you can connect with other people where they are, and you can connect with what they're feeling. And it doesn't mean we deny where we are.
Mhm.
It's just a possibility to connect with someone else to help them come out of where they are.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of different things as you're talking. One is in line with what you're saying there. We can connect with people's emotions without adopting them in our own
amen.
moment, right? So if I'm in a place where I'm on top of the world, and I meet a negative Nelly, I don't have to adopt negative Nelly's negativity in my life. I don't have to let that impact me in a way that, again, it's a choice. I'm choosing not to let their negativity enter into my on top of the world moment. But at the same time, the other thing I was thinking about as you were talking about, the emotions that God has wired us with, when we really look at Jesus's life, he experienced a myriad of emotions.
Oh, yes.
We see him experience joy. We see him experience compassion. We see him experience anger. We see him experience grief. We see him, he's real in those moments. And I think that sometimes we've had a tendency in the church to say that happiness is the only acceptable emotion for us to have.
Right.
And that's not really authentic. That's not really truth. And again, it's not like you walk around going, oh, I'm so wounded, I'm terrible. You do that wisely, right? Because not everyone's going to have the capacity to be able to understand that and where you are, and they won't hold your heart precious in that place. But at the same time, you don't have to pretend to be something you're not.
Right.
Right. So I love your authenticity to say, I'm really looking at what is true happiness. What is it really about? What does it really look like? Because we've been taught to have a form of happy. But honestly, that's not even acceptable necessarily anyway, because we pretend to be happy and people walk away going, they're faking it.
Right.
It's like, let's get real with the fact that people can read truth in the windows of the soul.
Yes.
When this doesn't match this, there's a disconnect. We recognize that. And so it's important for us to know that we can value ourselves and value each other enough to say, wherever you are is okay.
Yes. And I love, it's the exploration of who the Lord is for us in that moment, and what he wants us to have. And I believe the Lord wants us to have happiness and to be able to be happy.
Yeah.
But like you said, that's not the end goal. The end goal is not to be happy if it's at the expense of being true and being authentic and being whole. And we have a redeemer. Jesus is such an amazing redeemer. And when a person goes on a journey into authenticity and true reality, that's who you get to know him as. You get to know him as that redeemer. And when you walk with your redeemer, you get to have happiness.
Yeah.
So
it is part. It's not like disclaimer, happiness is the real thing, but it's something that I think as we step into how God's moving now, and as we talk about the importance of connecting in a relationship with people, not functionally, not, I'm here, check my box, and I'm happy and everything's great and life is good, and you're dying on the inside. There's a value to being able to connect with people in a relational journey, which means that you will have joy, but you'll also have times that are not the same emotions, that may
Right.
be sadness, that may be grief, that may be, that may be a great excitement, that may be an overwhelming sense of wonder of who God is,
Yes.
and there's this incredible authenticity, and that word's overused, but there's this incredible joy, because joy is ongoing, right? There's an incredible joy of being in the moment with yourself and not discounting where you are. That's important for
Right.
growth. I feel upset about this thing. Why do I feel upset about it? God, help me understand what it is about this that upsets me. Well, for me, a lot of times I may get upset about something, but when I do, it's because I see someone not being valued, or I see their voice getting shut down. Well, that's my why. That's how God created my why to work, right? So I
Yes.
see that injustice, if you will, and I want to see them have the freedom to be valued as they need to be valued, and have the voice that they need to have. That
Yes.
makes me happy, right? That's happiness for me, but it's not necessarily the same. It's not going to look the same for everyone else.
Right.
That's
Well,
okay.
and what if these emotions that God gave us, are really road markers, and they're here so that God can give us the signs
Mhm.
he needs to give us in the moment to know how to explore,
Mhm.
to know how to live life, to know, okay, this emotion's here. I know this, I got to connect with God on this.
Mhm.
I need to see what he's saying. And like you said, the upset piece, it's very common when people get angry, that really ties into their identity and what God's created them to impact.
Right. Exactly.
And so if you're spending all your time, I'm not going to be angry, I'm not going to be angry, or I'm just going to be happy, you might miss the markers God's sending you.
Mhm.
And that's, yeah, what might we miss?
Right. Well, and that goes back to the conversation we had before in one of our other video chats about engaging with God. It's a
Yes.
way to engage with God in your emotion.
Yes.
God, this is how I feel. This is what I'm experiencing. Let's take some time to talk about that. Let's
Right.
take some time to explore it together. Let's take some time
Yes.
to understand what's the root for why this impacts me, even positively. God, I am so happy about this thing. What is it about
Yes.
this thing that just makes me so happy? That's cool.
Yes.
So yeah. So I mean, it's be real, but
Yeah.
don't feel obligated to be in an emotion you're not in,
Right. Right. Right.
and also just the freedom to, and the if you walk away with nothing else, I hope you walk away with the knowledge that it's okay to be where you are, and
Yes.
that's an authentic part of your journey, and it's just a great chance to talk to God about it.
Yes. Yes. So you guys enjoy your conversations with God and enjoy exploring who you really are, and the markers and the road signs he's giving you. Thanks for being here today.
Bye.